is Douglas Murray, Associate Editor of The Spectator and the best-selling author of The War on the West. Let's start with crime and punishment, Douglas. We have a legion of Soros-backed prosecutors in cities across America who are seen to be very soft on crime, but the man himself is unapologetic. George Soros wrote a piece for the Wall Street Journal in the last few days saying he'll continue to pour his considerable resources into backing what he calls reform prosecutors.
Yes. It's an extraordinary thing. It's one of the things about George Soros, it's very hard to bring across, is that he does sound at times just like a Bond supervillain. And it's not from nowhere that people have found themselves going into this sort of, hole of analysis about him, because, he has extraordinary wealth. He has an extraordinarily strong ideology. And he has been able to run against whole cities, whole nations, actually, on the international stage. And what he's been doing in America, and one of the many things he's been doing in America, is backing what he calls reform-minded district attorneys. Now, these are people who believe in, for instance, bail reform, that they believe will, empty the American jails and will bring great justice to America. And in reality, bail reform, as it has been happening in countries across America, is not reducing crime. It is, as many people could have told him, accelerating crime. You see in major cities like New York, where very liberal-minded DAs have arrived, they try to make things non-crimes that were crimes until yesterday. Serious crimes, shoplifting, car theft, all sorts of other things. You see the police totally demoralized, not just because they've had to have several years of everyone insisting that they're racist proto-murderers themselves, but because whenever they actually get a criminal, the criminal will be out within 24 hours, back on the streets. The New York Post showed this week there are people in New York who've been arrested up to 100 times and let out. So these sort of Soros-backed reforms they're not reducing crime. They're not making the country more equitable or more fair or anything like this. They're making cities far more dangerous than they need to be. It's exactly the opposite of the policy that was so famous during the Giuliani mayoralty in New York, the so-called broken windows policy, where you make sure that even the smallest crimes, like a broken window, are prevented and therefore the area becomes safer. It's exactly the opposite of that. It's actually making major crimes non-crimes. And as a result, crime as a whole is running wild.
Absolutely. It is the polar opposite to that policy, with the polar opposite results. As you explained, the crime rate, particularly violent crime, is just soaring in some of these cities.